Welcome to the Dev Team Show. My name is James. In this episode, we're going to talk about cloud assumptions. Joining me is Scott Hanselman. Welcome to the show, Scott.
How's it going?
So, I'm very familiar with deploying a website, hosting a local, like a website on a local server, pretty straightforward stuff. Even like I would describe as commodity hosting, where I go buy some cheap hosting service, maybe that's $10 a month, right? Deploy up there, very simple. I can add a site, configure that site, deploy my site up there, pretty simple stuff. Very similar to what I did locally, but cloud. Like I created an Azure account and now I just kind of repeat and do the same thing. Am I doing something wrong? Like, am I missing kind of the point of why I would even be interested in doing stuff up on Azure and doing, cloud development?
Okay, so the word cloud is one of those words like containers, where it's like, oh, it's fun to say, it feels good in your mouth, cloud, but what does that mean? Is clouds just what like younger people call hosting? It's more than that.
Right.
I like to think about it in terms of what is virtual and what is physical, and what is elastic and what is not. So if I made a website on a machine or a virtual machine, and I put it on a host, lowercase h or uppercase h, doesn't matter, some local inexpensive host, I could visit my computer. I could go down, I could drive down to that host, and I could find that machine, and I could say, show me my C drive, or show me my mount point. Where's my site? Go, oh, well, it's on this spinning rust disk, on this rack, in this room, with a wire that goes to the wall. That's your computer. That is hosting. Sometimes in the old days, you used to actually physically take your computer down there, and you would literally be buying a slot in the rack.
Co-locating.
You would co-locate, right? Then it got to the point where you just FTP your code, you'd send your code up there. But when you move into the cloud, if you treat the cloud as a host, as a simple host, that is a rather naive, and that's not meant to be a diminutive, it's just simply to be a descriptive word. It's a naive way to think about hosting. You can take a virtual machine and do what's called lift and shift and move that into the cloud, and you go, look, we're in the cloud. When I move something over into the cloud, though, and I treat the cloud as a host, I'm missing out on the fact that it can be elastic, it can scale in different directions, and I'm also fooling myself into thinking I can visit it, okay? We've gone into an entirely virtual world right now, okay? So let's think about classic three-tier architecture. This was when, a website and a shopping cart and a product catalog would sit on top of some business objects that would then sit on top of a database.
Right.
Again, you could visit them all and you could go and put them somewhere. And if someone were going to upload information to that particular application, maybe product images, you take those images and then you put them on the disk, right? And then what happens if there's now two web servers in that? There's now a web farm. Well, if I go and hit it, I'm going to hit www1 and then www2, and I'll bounce back and forth. Each time I upload my images, they might show up on a different disk.
Yep.
So now I have some scale problems, and then I have an issue with what's called node affinity, where I have affinity with one node, and that's where all of my things get uploaded to, and I have affinity with this node, it gets uploaded to there. So then I might make a shared disk, right, and then have a mapped drive. But now I've got three things. I've got two virtual machines and a disk. Well, then I'm like, well, maybe I'll put the files in the database. Well, is that really where they belong? And then suddenly you start getting into interesting problems of scale. You can ask yourself, do I scale out more computers, or do I scale up bigger, fancier computers?
Right.
If I simply move over into the cloud and then try to solve those problems in those ways, suddenly I'm not really doing a product catalog and a shopping application anymore. Now I'm doing kind of administrivia, just administrative moving around of virtual machines. It's the same problem I had before, except instead of moving around physical machines, I'm moving around virtual machines. What you want to do is when you move over to the cloud, do your lift and shift. It's okay to do that, but then also think to yourself, how can I make my application cloud native? Okay, so a cloud native application doesn't write to the disk, right? It writes to some cloud-based storage, whether it be Amazon S3 or Azure storage or some Mongo database out there in the world or SQL Server, some mutable storage that is available to me via an API. Someone goes and uploads an image. I never write to my local disk. I send it off into Azure Document DB or somewhere, or S3 or whatever. It's non-denominational. These concepts are not specific to Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud or Amazon. These are how to architect for the cloud. Then I might want to ask myself, well, how does this web server talk to these business objects that then talk to the database?
Right. If I'm doing development locally, how does that change that, right? I mean, you're talking about not touching the disk anymore. Do I just abstract that away and I am actually touching the disk when I'm developing locally? Or is there some way of emulating that service locally?
It all depends on what you decide to choose. So for example, if it's Mongo and that's going to be your object store, there you can run an instance of Mongo locally, and then you can have one in the cloud. Or I'd use a third party like MLabs. If you're doing something like Azure Document DB, which is kind of like it's a JSON-based document store, you could have a local Document DB emulator. If you're going to talk to storage, Azure Storage or S3, there's an Azure Storage emulator. So you can simulate your own internal cloud. But then you have to start thinking about decoupling. Is the product catalog that receives these new product images going to just talk directly to that? Or is there going to be an intermediary?
Right.
Then you also want to ask yourself, when parts of my site go down, does it make the entire site go down? Right? Netflix is really great where if parts of Netflix goes down, like adding a DVD to your cart or searching for a movie, that doesn't make the movie stop playing. Like Netflix doesn't entirely go down. One of the microservices within Netflix goes down. So if I have a single virtual machine and it falls over, my product catalog's gone, my shopping cart is gone. But if I had a shopping cart service and an identity service and a checkout service and a taking money from the customer service and a product catalog service, can I architect my application where they are loosely coupled so that any one of those could go down and the site wouldn't fall over?
Or you could even scale those independently of each other, right?
Exactly, exactly. And then that allows you to then containerize those in the future. So there's levels of increasing maturity. Lift and shift is fine, but you don't want to stick with that. Start breaking things up into different virtual machines or platform as a service. Platform as a service is like where an Azure app service or an Azure website sits on top of a virtual machine that I choose to ignore. I know it exists, but I pretend that it doesn't exist. Like at Heroku or Google Cloud, they all have virtual machines, but they hide them from us effectively. So you have to ask yourself as you decide to move your application into the cloud, do I want to know, care, and love my virtual machines? Or do I really just want to, borrow them and not really think about them? It's almost like pets for hire. Like you can get a dog, but you got to keep it watered and fed and all that. I don't have a dog, so I don't know how you have to water the dog. But you know what I mean? Or I can just borrow my brother's dog and then I have like a dog for hire, right?
Right.
So virtual machines are not necessarily a business I want to be in. So the cloud has the ability to programmatically change, to elastically grow both horizontally or scale out more virtual machines or up, make them bigger. None of that is the same as a host where you can visit your hard drive.
Yeah. So if you start with the lift and shift, ship or shift?
Shift.
Shift.
Lift the virtual machine and shift it to the cloud.
Right. So if you start with that, is there like a common path forward? You pick some part of your application and say, we're going to turn this into a service?
So if it's a web application, you want to ask yourself, can I pick it up off the virtual machine and put the web component, the page serving component, whether it's a Node or ASP.NET or whatever, can I move that into a PaaS or platform as a service environment?
Right.
If I was picking up a blog that runs in a virtual machine, could I run that in Azure App Service or in Google Cloud or in Amazon Lambda or somewhere else?
You might leave the database behind temporarily.
And then later on, could I move the database somewhere else? Then I could say, well, like using the product catalog example, could I somehow tease the product catalog and shopping cart separate?
Right.
And have shoppingcart.mywebsite.com.
So instead of thinking of these horizontal layers in your application, you start thinking in vertical slices and think, well, maybe products.
In functional slices, yeah. Exactly.
Cool.
So that's a way that I think about the cloud. And I think that if you go out and explore those concepts, you'll be able to apply them to your own applications as you explore your learning here.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for sharing that, Scott.
Thank you.
Be sure to check the notes that accompany this video for links to additional resources. Also, rate this video, let us know how we're doing. Or if you have a topic that you'd like to see us talk about in the future, tell us about that too. See you next time.